Hello everyone. So thank you very much, George, and everyone at KITION for inviting me to come and give this little talk. I've been very busy in the background over almost a year now, trying to get this sorted out with the observatory. So if I just go on to the first slide, and basically what this is all about is that due to the COVID, back in August last year, I was approached by Dr. Sandra Voss at the Observatory Science Centre at Herstmonceux, who was asking me for technical advice on whether we could install and get working a camera system, a digital camera system, in any of the domes at the OSC. And the reason for this was because post-COVID, we were fearful that because of the rules about separation and all the rest of it, social distancing, we wouldn't be able to all share the same eyepieces on the telescope on the open evenings. And she needed another way forward to basically keep the observatory running. So on a normal evening in the dome, say this is Dome D, of course you'll have maybe 10 or 15 people up there, and they'll all be clambering up a ladder in almost total darkness and having a look through an eyepiece. And as you can see, the chap that's looking through the eyepiece is also hanging on to it. So it's a touchy-feely thing. And of course, this is now something that can't happen, well, not yet anyway. And again, another picture in Dome D where an observer is just looking up, and another one. And you can see loads of people milling around in the background there. They can't see each other, actually. It's only the camera that can see them. So they're all sort of stumbling around in the dark up there, you know. The problems in Dome E are just as great because it has a rising floor and it takes loads of people, you know, it's a bigger arena and it's a much bigger telescope, it's twice the size. So we've got problems with all of those where people can't now look through them directly. Obviously, also out on the lawns, this has impacted on the astronomical societies, including Wealden astronomers, and where 2 years ago, this was at the Astronomy Festival at the OSC, you had a field full of people camping, and you had literally hundreds of people swarming around the site at night, looking at the lovely clear skies when they appeared. So we were taking care of the overspill from the domes as people were touring around, and pretty busy it got too. So this is the problem. Dome D, this is 2 telescopes, a 10-inch on the top and a 13-inch on the bottom. The 13-inch is f11, and it's got a focal length of 11 foot, it's about 3.4 meters. And the top one is an identical scope, but 10-inch at f16. Now, traditionally, the observatory have only used the top 10-inch telescope because it was actually a viewfinder for the big scope, and we immediately determined that we would not be able to fit a camera onto the bottom, the 13-inch telescope, because that is actually where the plate holder goes, and of course that is literally at the focal plane, so the camera would actually land up half of it inside the body of the telescope. More on that later. The top one was also a problem because you've got that huge collar around the scope. Let's just come on past that one. I've got another one. There we go. So we've got this huge plate surrounding the 2-inch helicoid with the 1 1/4 eyepiece in it. And we were fearful that no camera would fit it and no camera would actually come to focus. Nobody previously had ever been successful in actually getting anything attached to these telescopes, whether it be a film camera or a digital one, to our knowledge. Anyway, that was in August last year, and Sandra had actually found out that the Royal Astronomical Society were offering some grants, and they had about £5,000 up for grabs between up to 3 participants, 3 applicants. And Sandra applied for a grant, and we didn't find anything out until late November, and it was then on the 1st of December that we were able to carry on and have a little muck around and see whether we could get a camera fitted to the back of this telescope. The immediate answer was actually no, because the camera that I've got, the Panasonic mirrorless, has a hand grip on it, and it crashes into the back of the eyepiece. So this is my Panasonic GH5, and although it's mirrorless, if you see where the red button is above the word wireless, that is also the position of, there's a little line there, like a watermark on a ship, is the focal plane. And I've got some interference coming in here. I'll just turn my speaker down a bit. I think there's howlback. Something's coming back on the speaker. Although the chip is quite far forward, we still were worried that we wouldn't be able to get the camera close enough to the telescope, and that was borne out. Oh no, what's happened to me? My programs. Oh, there we go. Don't go away. Right. Okay. This was borne out when I tried to mount it on the back there, and the only way we could get it to come to focus was I put in a 1.4 times teleconverter, and we actually handheld the camera at the back of the telescope, and we managed to, we were actually focused on Jupiter with its moons, and I took that picture, which is pretty rough, handheld at a 15th of a second. So if you imagine hand holding a camera in fresh air in the back of the telescope. So we proved that we could actually get to a focus point. So then this is the tube here, the black device, is a micro four thirds to T2 adapter, and of course they come in all different thicknesses depending on the camera, because it takes it to a set focus point for a T2 type lens, and these originate from the 1960s, a type 2 lens where you could have several different makes of camera, say an Exacta, a Petri or a Pentax or a Canon, and you could have the same lens and just screw it straight on to any of those cameras, and it would always be in focus in infinity. So what we had to do was try and find a skinny micro four thirds adapter, and there are none around. They don't make them. There were several advertised on Amazon, but it turned out to be a false alarm, and it was just mis-selling. So in the end, I approached a firm just north of London called SRB Manufacturing, and they actually do a range of photographic accessories, and they do all these adapter rings, and they agreed to make 3 up for us, 1 for Dome D, 1 for Dome E, and then I got 1 for myself as a spare, just in case I needed one. So those took until February, mid-February to turn up. In the meantime, I'd purchased a GX9 camera, which this is it here, and you can see immediately there's no hand grip on it. It's a very flush, smooth body, like an old Leica. And when we installed that onto the back of the telescope, we struck lucky. We got lucky. So this is the camera from the front. And of course, this was much cheaper. The Panasonic GH5 we were planning on putting on was about £1,200. This is 450. So the observatory were over the moon that we got them a cheaper camera. It's all metal, and it has the same 20 megapixel chip as the big camera. It's just that it's in a more compact form and the video isn't so good on it. Also of note is that it has a tilting screen, and if I come around to the other side, so it tilts in 2 directions, and it has an electronic viewfinder that tilts up as well. This has come in very useful when using it with the camera or the telescope firing up towards the zenith, as we did when we were imaging M13 a few weeks back. Also on the back panel, rather than being a fully automated system, most of the important controls are all on this back panel. So that's made using this camera an absolute dream. So these are the mounts, and they really are a thing of beauty. And you can see the difference between, in the center at the back there is the original micro four thirds to T2, and then these squished up little 10mm thick ones. They really are beautifully made. So armed with that, we put the camera on the back of Dome D 10-inch telescope. And in this picture here, it looks a bit confusing, but you can see the red dot is on the mount of the T2 adapter. The bit along the bottom is the top of the camera. And then beyond that is the T2 to 2-inch eyepiece adapter that goes inside this tube. And then you've got the helicoid. And the whole thing is really close to the back of the telescope, but we got away with it. I think it was about 4 or 6 millimeters spare before the camera hit ground. So we're just on the right side of it. So here's the camera. This is not in a focused position. This is just as we hung it on the mount, and I just happened to take a picture of it. And what we're doing is we're taking a USB connection out to a 24-inch monitor. And here I am with that monitor. And the idea being that although the monitor's down on a trolley at the moment and you've got dangling cables, there's an X up on the side of the telescope there, and that is actually the bracket for mounting the monitor on. So the monitor will be up parallel to the eyepieces, and then no matter which way we slew the telescope and walk round it or whatever we do, that will actually follow us all the way. And in addition, and this is very important because it's very dark in there, the cable run won't go down to the ground anymore. It will actually run up the tube of the telescope, we'll tie it off, and then drop across to the monitor. The only mains cable involved is from the monitor, and that joins up with the mains cables that supply the telescope anyway, and are taken out via trunking on the floor. So all in all, a very, very health and safety good setup. And of course, people can see live view exactly what's going on when I take the pictures. Now this is me operating it. I've got the white light on there. One of the problems we've had is that when you put an eyepiece on that 10-inch scope, you have to unwind it quite a way to get focus. When you put the camera on, you've got to wind it all the way back in again. So there's only about 3 turns. And trying to get the camera to the focus point is very hard. And it actually, under battle conditions on the open evening, it took us around 10 minutes to do a swap between acquiring a target on the eyepiece and getting the camera running. I have a method for sorting that out, so we can do that in 30 seconds now, and I'll explain that a bit later on. But when we did a test with the camera, this is M13 globular cluster, and that's 60 seconds at 60 seconds at 3200 ISO. And I don't know what the resolution of your screens are, but you can see there's 1 or 2 sort of noisy bits of muck in this picture where the chip was getting a little bit hot on the camera, and we're getting little red dots everywhere. Also, although we felt the quality of the image was fantastic on the night, when we went back on the 5th of June on the open evening and hit the same target, the picture was absolutely amazing. Somewhere here, why is this not changing? Oh, there we go. So that's the next picture. So if I go back to the old one, so that's the one we took on the 1st of June. And this is just purely down to atmospheric conditions as to the brightness of the picture. So these are virtually unprocessed raw images made into JPEGs because we wanted to see exactly what the camera would do in live view. It's no good sort of heavily processing something so that it's artificial. We wanted pictures that the public would relate to because that's what they would see through this camera on the 24-inch monitor. Now, very interesting was when we aimed it at the moon, and this was absolutely amazing because the angle of view, by the way, is about across the field is about 20 minutes. So it's about 1/5 of 1 degree angle of view across the frame. And if I fire this is a 4K video. So the camera, you just press the button and it's shooting in 4K video, which is amazing. So this is being outputted to the 24-inch screen, simultaneous to being recorded in camera. And you can see instantly that we've got quite a bit of aberration around the fringing around the edge of the moon. Obviously, the telescope is a doublet, one flint, one crown, glass elements, and obviously it can't be corrected fully, but you can see the way the moon was wobbling around a bit as we shot it. Now, what was of even better interest was when we actually took still pictures of the moon, and the quality on this is just amazing. I'd be willing to have a competition with anybody using this telescope for imaging the moon. But how we had to do it, as you well know, with the rippling of the air going past the moon, you know, with the air currents locally through the atmosphere, you could take just one picture and you get a result. But actually you have to take a burst pictures, and I actually shot over 100 pictures of the moon, and I was firing in bursts of about 6 frames a second for 10 seconds, you know, just letting the camera do its business. And then when I got home, I processed them, I looked through them and found the absolute sharpest one, and this is it. But I mean, for the public to view it on a big screen, one shot is enough, and of course it's live view as well, so they can actually see the moon rippling as if it's a video recording. So,
may I ask you a question here?
Yes.
When switching from the video mode to the picture mode,
yes,
do you need to refocus? Because we have the same issue and we have to refocus, and when we switch to the video mode, it was much darker and we needed to do all the settings again.
No, because on the camera, I'm shooting in manual anyway, and whatever exposure I've set up would be translated to the video. The video would shoot at the same exposure time and aperture as would a still picture. They'd be identical. Within the limits of the video. Obviously, if you were filming something with a 1 second exposure, you couldn't use the video because the video is 25 frames a second, and you would have to, normally you'd shoot a 50th minimum so that you have 180 degree gate so that the image looks natural. But under battle conditions, you can shoot at a 25th of a second, so that there's no gap in the frames. But yeah, the camera just goes from one mode. You just press another button, and then when you stop the video, you just press the shutter, and it's taking normal pictures. So it's not a problem. That's the beauty of this particular camera system. It's designed for the lay public to use, but it's got enough manual overrides on it to make it dangerous in the hands of a Herbert like me. so it's good stuff. It's all good stuff. And here we are on the first open evening on the 5th of June, when we were proudly displaying our pictures that we'd already shot of the moon. The idea is that we are going to build up between us at the observatory. Every clear night we get, we're going to target as many different objects in the sky as we can, and we're going to build a catalogue shot through these telescopes. The idea being that if you have an open evening and then it goes cloudy or it's pouring with rain, we can still do a telescope tour where they visit the dome, but we'll simply play back the pictures on the monitor as opposed to shooting them live on the camera through the telescope. So people still get a pretty good talk, and you know, it's interactive and everything. So it's a much better feel. And certainly on the 5th of June, even with the people having to wait 10 minutes while I got the camera in focus properly to take the pictures of M13, they were absolutely glued with curiosity as to what I was doing, what was happening, and the fact that, oh, hold on, this isn't a telescope, it's a camera. Because a telescope is a camera, and a camera can be a telescope. They're interchangeable. It's only a lens and a camera. So it's actually opening people's minds in a big way to actually exploring and just thinking laterally about what's going on when they come into the dome, rather than just in a dark room, look for an eyepiece, oh yeah, that was nice, cheerio. We now have a much, much better product and a much better way of displaying it. So now, poor old Ian Whiteley, he's the keeper of Dome D. He's a fantastic guy, and he volunteers at the observatory. And he unfortunately, because of the bad weather and because of his other business commitments, hasn't actually yet made it to one of the evenings where we were playing with the camera. And we're hopeful that tomorrow night he'll join us, and then I can bring him up to speed, because basically this Dome D is his baby. It's his telescope. So as soon as we can get Ian up to speed running this, then he'll be able to use the camera himself, so he can be a one-man band and be the astronomer and the camera operator all in one go. Now, Dome E. Now, this is a really big problem. As you can see, that telescope is big. It's 22 foot long, 26-inch lens, and weighs 12.5 tons, although you can move it with your fingers. It's so well balanced. But as you can see, it's big. No business.
I have bad memories in this dome.
It's big. Now, the biggest problem is that when you go in the dome, now this is in daylight, and you can see there that that's William, that's right, Will Joyce, who was giving the demonstration that day. That was way back in 2012. And you can see how far away we are from the telescope itself. So, whereas in Dome D, in there is really cuddly, you know, it's a lovely compact thing, really. And of course, you know, to get the USB cable, the HDMI cable from the camera to the monitor is only a 15-foot cable, and it's all done, and there's plenty of slack. On here, it's about 12 or 15 foot from the eyepiece up to the halfway point on the pivot for the RA and the deck. And then, of course, he's got to come back across the body of the scope and then down the frame. But of course, when we go up, the floor disappears, or rather the floor goes up, and then of course we've come up to the telescope. So cabling in this instance will be absolutely horrendous, and the only way I can think of, we can do the camera on the back, that's not an issue, but we'll have to send the signal out by radio or have a monitor on the side of the telescope, a battery operated one, because I don't think we can safely get mains up and along to the back there. And this is something that we're exploring currently. Give you an idea of the field of view. This is my picture shot on a 560mm lens with a little bit of magnification of Orion Nebula M42, and the little box in the middle is of the trapezium, and on the Thompson 26-inch, that's what you get, the trapezium. That's all.
Wow.
That is one heck of a magnification. This actually covers 1/10 of a set, 1/10 of a minute across the, I'll get this right in a minute, it's 10 minutes of the sky. It's 1/10 of a degree of the sky it gets in approximately with my camera on it. Now obviously if you put a 6-inch square plate in on the camera on the back, then of course the field of view is much greater, and it's probably about 2.5 degrees. And on Dome D, I think it's about 4 or 5 degrees on the 6-inch plate. Now, the great thing about this is, although we can only see the trapezium, this is a 10-second exposure. And if the public were to look through an eyepiece, this is similar to what they would see. But if you up the exposure to a minute, okay, the trapezium's now burnt out. But look what we have around it. We've now got all the gas clouds and the dust and the emissions that are happening within the Orion Nebula. So if we were to aim either of these telescopes at, say, another nebula, say the Crab Nebula or the Eagle or the Lagoon or the Trifid in the Milky Way, we're going to get some pretty spectacular results with all the stuff that's going on in the sky there. Similarly, this is M45 Pilates, Seven Sisters, and the little blue box indicates one major star with 3 others surrounding it, and that's what you get in on the on the Dome E telescope, and this is on the main telescope. Height of luxury on this one is that it's got a huge great wheel around the diameter of it, and the whole thing is a giant helicoid focusing rack, and you can just turn the wheel like driving a bus really, and the back plate goes in or comes out nearer, and you can get such fine focusing on it. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I'm really looking forward to getting back in there. These were taken under diabolical lighting conditions. When we went in, it was sort of half cloudy, and we decided after we got these, we would shut down. And by the time we came out the dome, it was 100% cloudy sky. In that 10 minutes it took to shut the dome down, it closed in on us, boom, all sky gone. So it was, we were on borderline conditions there.
So was this processed or is it raw image? Sorry? This is a raw image.
These are
raw images. This one.
No. This is unprocessed.
Unprocessed.
I've shot them in RAW and I've shot them in JPEG.
Okay.
It's
really sharp. It's really sharp, and it seems that there was no humidity at all. Because if you see the surrounding of the star, it's really clear and sharp, and
yes,
you can even see the edges.
That's right. Well, of course, the main star, Alcyon, is only bloated because it's so overexposed. It's 13 seconds. I've got an exposure of it at, I think, 3 seconds, and the star is a nice pinhead. Whereas the other 2 stars on the right have all but disappeared. So obviously it's a balance between them. So yeah, we've got some unfinished business with this telescope, we really have. So I'm looking forward to doing more with it.
So, I will help you in September.
Mm. So anyway, the whole idea of this exercise is that we don't over process any of the pictures. They've got to be as they would be seen by the public, live view coming off the back of the telescope. Anything else, it doesn't matter, it doesn't count. It's what the telescope can actually see on the night, live view, at whatever exposure I decide to use. So that's the secret of it. My screen's locked up again. There we go. So the next issue that we've got to overcome is one that Sandra raised. She said, is there any chance that on a night where we are doing the live view in both D and E, when they're up and running, that we could beam the signal or take the signal and get it back to the main corridor and the cafe in the main building? And the reason for that is then people who aren't in Dome D and Dome E have an update. They can actually see what's happening elsewhere on the site. And this has presented quite a challenge, and we haven't resolved it yet, because the main one is that, of course, that the domes are made out of copper, and anyone who does amateur radio will know that if you want to completely isolate a signal or interference, you will put it in a tin can and put it to earth. Then nothing gets out. So it's like a Faraday cage with knobs on. So it's the ultimate sort of signal killer, as it were. So there are, and also the green arrows are indicating maybe a lesser system where we have a 5 gig, well, they're all on 5 gig, but the red ones would be frequency agile, 8-channel 8 frequency agile, with a 500 to 1,000 foot range to hopefully punch out through the dome. The green arrows would be a smaller transmitter, which would actually transmit straight to an iPad. So a floor walker, or an astronomy assistant could be down there, or one of the Wealden astronomers with an iPad, and they'd be locked on to the camera output in, say, Dome E, and they can actually then show pictures to the public as they queue up to go in, because that very often happens. The queue from Dome E to Dome D join in the middle at the steps. It's that busy some evenings. So you need to keep those people entertained, and that would be one way of doing it. The devices we're looking at, but no permission has been given to purchase yet, and it could be that they won't work. But this is a simple one. This is used by videographers, including myself, although I haven't got one of these. If you are producing a video and you've got a director, or you've got a video, what they call a video village, where you've got other cast members who, say you're photographing a band, doing a music video, and they all want to see what the film is coming out the camera. So this attaches to the camera, HDMI input in, and it transmits an HD signal to up to 3 iPads. And you'll see on these posh sets, you'll see the director, and he's got an iPad, and it's got 2 handles on it and a row of aerials along the top, which is the transmitter receiver system that he's using, with talkback as well. But this is a simple one, and these are only about 150 quid. So and there's another version of it. So that's one way we could actually utilize that in Dome E, by dangling one of those on the camera, and then we output it to an iPad, which is local, so that people can see the image by that mechanism.
This is compatible only with iOS, yeah?
Yes.
But there are similar compatible to Android.
There's no cables involved. It will plug into any Android system or any iOS iPad. So, and now the SWIT ones, and there are several systems professionally. This is an 8-channel frequency hopping rig, And although it says 500-foot line of sight, these have been tested on a video out to 900 foot, which is 300 yards or 300 meters. And they basically, the transmitter battery operated, and you just plug the HDMI cable into it, and then the receiver goes next to a monitor at a remote point, and you just plug a HDMI cable into that and plug it into the side of the monitor. Job done. The rest of it is automatic. So this is a plug and play system, very reliable, very strong performance. But we don't know whether it will escape the dome or whether we'll have to actually rig it so that it's up above the dome on a pole on the open evenings, so that we've got line of sight back to the main building. So that's the technical problems we've got to resolve next, funds permitting, and we will just see how that all pans out over the next few months. So I think if the Dome D is as much as a success as Sandra and I think it's going to be, or know it will be, then funds will be made available to do the same in Dome E, and then we'll just sort of build it up over the next few months. Now, one other thing, when I grew up, this is me when I was about 20 and I had hair. I remember hair.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible, incredible. That was very
yeah, I'll put a wig on. Yeah. And of course, when I did my apprenticeship as a pro photographer, I was taught how to use a 5x4 plate camera. And this is my weapon of choice, a Swiss Arca 5x4 monorail, which is truly gorgeous piece of equipment to use. So I'm used to being under a dark cloth, looking at an upside down image on a ground glass screen. Now, there's the ground glass screen on the back of a older camera. But if you go to the back of this telescope, the bigger telescope, the base one, where that big black plate is on the back, if you take that off, that's where the slide holder goes. I am looking at exploring putting a ground glass focusing screen in there, a 6-inch square screen. And the reason being that if we're targeting the moon through the one at the top, people can then look at the ground glass screen on the bottom and they will see a splendid picture of the moon, about probably 3 or 4 inches diameter or bigger, on the back of the thing. Whereas this telescope up until now has been blanked off and it means nothing. People come in, they enjoy their viewing evening, they look through the top one, they haven't a clue what the bottom one does or what its capabilities are. This will open it up. This will make people think, because this is basically a telescope, which is also a camera. Let's show it to the public. And that's what we're working on now. So I think with both of them set up, this is going to be a pretty exciting time for the Observatory Science Centre, and I'm really looking forward to being part of this. That's about it. So thank you very much for listening to my talk, and any questions?
Excellent, excellent, very interesting, really interesting, and my mind is traveling there now. Believe it or not, I've missed this experience. I'm trying to find ways of transmitting the signal. I don't know if Keith suggested something from megacycles. But if you get the signal at the side wall, I think transmitted inside the dome, and
yes,
then transmitted from outside the dome with a pipe installed transmitting from the telescope, the video signal,
yes,
to the inside of the dome, which
yes,
is so far away with the cheap equipment. and then we transmitted into from the outside part of the dome to the other part, to the cafeteria and so on.
Yes.
It will be achieved without being afraid of having any noise because of the or capturing the signal within the cover. I'm not sure that's for the raised floor case, but it should work as well.
Right. Well, bear in mind that all these transmission systems, unless you're paying mega money, are only in HD. So they're 1080p. So that's your maximum transmission, which is basically a high definition picture, 2100 pixels by 1080, isn't it? 1080 by 2160.
It's still like a preview anyway.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, that's what we're aiming for. You need
to give them a different experience when they are on the actual telescope and the actual screen than when they're outside. Otherwise, they don't need to go in the screen.
No.
We need hands-on activity, yeah?
That's right. Well, of course, the trick is, of course, that the ones outside looking at whatever, say M13, by the time they get inside, will have traversed to another target, so that you're all doing, everyone's seeing different things.
Exactly,
yeah. So I think it's a terrific way of bringing these historic telescopes or any telescope up to modern standards, using the technology we have now. Well, one of the other things I found out is, and I just hadn't researched this, but originally Eastman Kodak back in 1890s invented a blue sensitive photographic plate, which was to become like the standard for astronomy. Now, I don't know why it was blue and ultraviolet sensitive only. I have no idea why, because I don't know whether they had, because originally the films were they were blue sensitive, then they had orthochromatic, which or ortho film, red, and then it became panchromatic later on when they invented a full spectrum sensitivity emulsion on silver halide. So I'm very interested to research what was going on with these blue sensitive plates, and I'm quite happy if these telescopes are configured for to be the sweet spot in the blue range of the spectrum, then I'm quite happy to put a suitable filter in front of the camera and go back to black and white and shoot in black and white, so that we can maybe get even better resolution with no fringing, because the fringing is caused by the fact that the different color frequencies are not coming to the same focus spot. Hence the purple fringing, etc. So I'll be very interested to play with that and see what we can sort out, So yeah, it's really got me going now. I want to get in there with a photographic plate, because I know how to develop print. So I did 40 years of black and white printing and colour, so I'm a bit dangerous there. And they still had the darkroom, so technically we could still do it. Whether we can get hold of any plates or not is another matter. So Sandra will be running a mile now. So yes. So yeah, all in all, brilliant. And although I've used the Panasonic system, Micro Four Thirds, because the chip is very shallow, it's just inside the lens mount. I feel that if you were to explore using either a Sony or a Fuji, you may have a similar depth. I'm not sure whether it's quite as far forward on the Fuji and the Canon and the Sony, but it's certainly on the Dome D, it's been critical. And I feel that probably the Panasonic is the only one that actually works on it to get infinity. So it's been quite a hair-raising ride, Yeah.
some more questions. I think, Ash, your question is answered now.
Ah, yes, yes, I see that. Have you considered?
Was it a GX9, did you say, John?
It was a GX9.
Thanks.
Yeah, GX9, and they're only about 450 quid, and it's got a 20 million pixel chip. It still does RAW and JPEG, and I cannot tell the difference between the pictures on my £1,200 camera and the £450 camera, because basically they output the same. The difference being that my GH5 and GH5S professional video cameras are configured for 10-bit 4K video output. So I can actually punch video out of those at 400 megs a second. So you need a very fast chip. I can demolish a 128 gig chip in about 30 minutes doing that. It's really silly. At the moment, I'm on 10-bit 422, and I actually get about, on 128 gigs, I get about 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I've got just enough space to record a music video or do an interview, all on one chip, you know. Yeah, but pretty heavy. But of course, the little Panasonic, the GX9, only although it has 4K output, it's only 8-bit rather than 10-bit, so it doesn't have that luxury or facility for the you know, all the bells and whistles. Yeah. So what other chat have we got here? Oh, you may prepare the next question. Thank you. Oh dear. Yes. So thank you for the kind words, everybody. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to get this talk. I hope it's proved to be interesting and spark your imagination, because what I've done with these telescopes at the observatory can actually equally be applied to any telescope, really, you know, whether it be a modern one. Just because you've got a CCD camera on the back coupled to a laptop, which of course, as we all know, is a nightmare, because you can't really see a proper live view. You get an image, but of course it's all downloaded, it's all in fits, and of course there's a lot of processing to be done. Whereas of course the GX9, it's quick and dirty. It does the job, because it actually takes all things bright and beautiful picture and gives the public something to see, bang, instantly. And that's what this game's about, is actually servicing the needs of the public when they can't actually look through the viewfinders themselves. So yeah, I think we're doing all right.
Have you tried attaching a DSLR?
Say that again.
Have you tried attaching a DSLR at the back of any of them?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't work, because the mirror box with the mirror going up and down, that takes up a lot of space. So you can reckon that any imaging chip on a DSLR is around between 25 and 40 millimeter further back into the body from the flange than a Panasonic camera with a micro 4/3 chip. And that's why we chose the Panasonic. I knew that a Nikon D810, for instance, you wouldn't stand a chance, because you just simply cannot approach the back of the telescope close enough. It's yeah. So it's been an interesting exercise, and it's ongoing. So, and I'll send you a postcard on whether the radios work. This could be expensive. So yeah. Oh, and the other thing with the radios, of course, is I was a licensed radio ham, so I'm Golf 7 Papa Tango Echo, and I know full well a microwave transmission. I used to do amateur TV in black and white, and of course you could buy a burglar alarm, a microwave burglar alarm detector, which is only a few milliwatts, very safe. But of course, if you then aim that into say a 2-meter dish or a 1-meter dish and focus that, you could actually get like 120 miles out of it. If you take it down to the beach, 9 foot above the tide, 9 foot above the water, you could actually talk from the east coast of England to Holland. You know, you could actually get 120 miles across the ocean with it. And I've actually heard of somebody actually tuning the waveguide, and they got their hand in front of it and microwaved their arm and was very seriously ill afterwards. So the dome, of course, copper dome, it's not a parabolic reflector, but it is a dome, and there must be a sweet spot in there somewhere where we could put this transmitter and then fry an egg because the entire top of the dome will collect all that radiation and boom, straight down to a focus point. So we've got to be a little bit careful what we do with the microwaves in there. And I'm sure it wouldn't be an issue, but hey ho, good fun. So I'm going to take an egg with me each time. Wherever I'm going to stand, I'll put the egg first. And if it's cooked in 2 minutes, then I won't stand there.
I remember when the second time that we left the astronomy fair down in London, and we came with Nick there.
Yes.
It was bloody cold, and I was trapped in Dome E. I was freezing, and I couldn't escape until the floor was lowered again.
No, yes,
So
yes.
that was my bad experience there.
Yes, well, when you spend all evening in there on a winter's night, on a clear winter
1 hour
night,
session.
it's brittle, absolutely brittle in there. Yes, yes. So yeah. We,
so you can use a radiation for heating.
Yes, that's right. Yes, brilliant. So yeah, I think I'll give that a miss. Anyway,
some more questions?
Oh right.
Philip has shared a link on Wikipedia about flange focal distance. Would be helpful, yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. Thank you. Yes. That's good. So and thank you, Tim, from Tim is a member of Wealden, but he's also the chair of Eastbourne Astronomical Society.
Yes.
And in fact, Tim
treasurer, unfortunately.
Treasurer. Oh, I'm sorry, I've upgraded you. So
we are talking about next election. We are going to be voting you.
Tim, do you have any of the ex-astronomers from the observatory within your group? Because I'd be really keen to talk to them about how what exposures they were using and the sensitivity of these plates and all the rest of it. You're muted.
Tim, you need to unmute yourself, please. Unmute.
Members.
Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, you're muted, Tim. I can't hear you.
Just a minute. Okay,
Yes,
try again. We do have a number, or have had a number of retired members from RGO
Right.
in our number, but I'm not sure what their photographic expertise would be.
No, because it was a pretty broad canvas. There was a lot of clock repairers and chronometer specialists there, weren't there, as well as telescope side of it. So
but there was the hope years ago when it all disappeared, so to speak,
yes,
that Eastbourne would get involved, but it didn't happen for whatever reason. And the people who were involved then aren't around Eastbourne anymore. In fact, one of them's in America, and he was an electrician on all of that.
Right.
But,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it would be interesting to swap notes on that in case there's anybody who can help.
Yes, that's right. I know that John Pilbeam has, who works at the observatory and in normally mans Domé on the open evenings or the viewing evenings. He's actually, I think it's him, he's been interviewing the ex-staff from the observatory. So he's been doing an audio recording. So I just haven't been able to get hold of John recently. So I'm going to tap him up and see whether he's got any contacts, because I'm really red hot keen now to learn more about these telescopes, because I think it adds to the story, and it's a story that needs telling.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise
it's brilliant that you've done the work you have and confounded those who actually said, no, they're optical scopes, you can't do anything like that with them.
I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, you certainly have.
Yeah. So I make my own path, as it were.
Yeah,
so,
great.
I take no notice of it, what anybody else has done or is doing. I just assess it, and if I think it can be done, we'll do it.
Have a go, yeah.
Yeah, because literally, you know, they're just sitting there waiting to be played with, and I think that everyone will get a lot more enjoyment out of them, especially with the ground glass screen installed.
Yes, that will be very interesting.
I think so. And although there is a factor that you would probably never ever see a globular cluster on the ground glass screen, because it would just simply be too dull, and the ground glass screen itself would actually diminish the image. But something as bright as the moon or Saturn and Jupiter, a bright spot, would definitely show up on a screen. I mean, I'm used to using a plate camera, so I know what you know, what the likelihood of it showing up will be. So yeah, and of course that I've been asking Sandra, and she's invited me to go around the museum section in the background, because I said that there must be a ground glass focusing screen that fits in the back of this telescope to have calibrated it in the first instance. I mean, it wouldn't have just come out the factory and be, you know, set.
No.
You know, it's actually got setting ring on the back with micrometer on it and everything. Although it's all locked up, it won't move. But the point is that the back area is able to compress in and out, and I feel that if there must have been an actual focusing screen as part of the original equipment, and if so, let's get that back in there instead of a blank.
Yeah. What do you make of these modern things like attic cameras? Are they any use? Because Eastbourne have got one, and we use it on a 5-inch or whatever when we have the opportunity to do public display, and we use a PC monitor so people can look at that. Yes, that's right. And that gives a live view. It's actually recording and layering it.
Yes, that's right. Well, of course, you see, Sandra and I explored both avenues, and we didn't know, neither of us could really work out. We knew that if we could put a CCD camera straight on the back and we get it to focus, we knew that that would work. But I said to her that you will then need a technical operator to actually download those images onto a PC and have them being processed so that you can have
live,
you know, have something to show them beyond just a sort of a black and white image or whatever, you know, a screen readout. And I have dabbled in this with a cheap CCD camera, a color one. But the quick and dirty method to do it that anyone can use is to have a camera with everything built in, and when you press the button, it takes a picture, processes it in the camera, and job done.
Outputs it.
Outputs it. You know, it's a finished item, and that is much easier, so that anyone with average photographic skills can still operate the machinery, and also it's the minimum interruption. You're not spending the whole evening focusing on that. You can actually be talking, and you know, if you see something that you think, oh yeah, that'll be nice, click the shutter, leave it running for, you know, 1 minute exposure, and bang, there it is on the screen. So it's sort of instant. Certainly on the first open evening, the public that came in were like blown away, even with a 10-minute wait, because we were doing things, and it was a telescope that was actually alive and functioning, and you know, things were happening, and they were interested, that actually was very pleasing, because it meant that people weren't just sort of, oh, well, let's have a look through the eyepiece and go. They really were keen to find out a little bit more about it. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, John.
You're doing really impressive things there, and I would like to congratulate you because first time when I visited the place, I was shocked that somebody wanted to bring down the telescopes because they considered them useless, and they were searched by the OSC and the Wilton astronomers. And after that, when I find out actually that it was also they were also the historical telescope of Greenwich, and they were moved there, I was, you know, we were struggling to collect money in our early beginning back in 2008, just to buy a 3-inch telescope, a 4-inch telescope, a 6-inch telescope to do outreach and science, and we had no money. And I was really impressed that somebody wanted to destroy this impressive big thing. I mean, it was incredible. And now you managed to save the history, actually, of a large piece of the history of astronomy. So that's incredible. Congratulations to everyone.
Yeah, well, both Sandra and I are very pleased with the outcome. And thank goodness, micro 4/3 cameras. That's all I can say, because it would have been a different outcome if it had been a normal DSLR. You know, it wouldn't have come to fruition. So yeah, but anyway, so that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Okay, let's proceed. So as you remember, this is citizen science, and I promised to give the link. So here we are. So this is link to Globe at Night program. Okay. And so that's how it works when you already collected data, but you may start from the main page. And our next meeting will happen in 2 weeks again. So on 2000 on 17th of August, we invite everyone to make to participate in program about meteor showers this summer. And it is really interesting because of this summer, especially this Perseids maximum will happen just near the when the moon permits to make observations. So the main fun will happen, is going to happen these 2 weeks during the moon set. After the moon set, we'll have the whole night observations of meteors. So that will happen during first part of the month. So it really, and not only Perseids, there are other meteor showers which will, which already happened and which will continue to be. So we'll discuss how meteor showers go in this summer. So everyone is welcome.
Fantastic, fantastic.